So, welcome back to technical communication class. Well, the first lecture was bombarding, isn't it? Even the first unit in itself is full of concepts, complex concepts. In the last lecture, we discussed about the two great models on which the complete communication process thrives. They were process of communication, where there is a sender, he encodes and then selects a channel, transmits the message, and the message is received by the receiver, he decodes, gives a response, and then if asked, gives a feedback, and the process goes on till the intended message reaches the receiver. And the second model was about LSRW. L stands for listening, R stands for reading, L stands for listening, S stands for speaking, R stands for reading, and W stands for writing. And there was one model which I did give you a bit of a hint. The third very important model was language. Can you just imagine communication taking place without language? If you remember properly, in the last lecture I said this is the backbone, this is the soul not only of communication but of the whole knowledge. You think of any domain, you think of any subject, can it literally be executed or disseminated or created without the help of knowledge? Not possible, not at all possible. So, today's class will be completely focusing on language, language and its developmental phases, language characteristics. People think language and literature, okay, it is not scientific. No, language is completely scientific. Why am I saying this? That you should consider language to be scientific? More are you able to understand that language is scientific, you will start perceiving, decoding, understanding language with a scientific orientation, and this is very much needed. You talk about any science, whether it is physics, chemistry, biology, or for it matters you are pursuing engineering, right? You may be a student of mechanical, CS, EC, EE, fine. What generally happens? Every science is in a way is a system, has certain structures, definitely has certain theory backing it. Obviously, it has methods, functions, kinds, parts, types. It definitely is ruled and governed by certain regulations. Obviously, it even has certain characteristics. Now, if you start understanding language from these perspectives, from these dimensions, your understanding will be more scientific. More broadly, holistically, completely you understand language, you will be in the state to apply the application part, the implementation part, the execution part in the latter course of time. While you use this complete language, will be easier. More minutely, more subtle things you understand, better these subtle things will be applied by you in your future whenever it is required. Now, as I said, we will be talking language from a perspective. What are those perspectives? I have said the developmental phase. Yes, if we believe in Darwinian theory, the Darwin, as I said, every language, everything, every science has a theory, right? Even language has a theory. As per the Darwinian theory, we were, chimpanzees living in jungles, and there were no civilization, no society as a system. We, hunted, survived by eating raw meats, and then gradually, just because of the complexity and comfort, luxury, and the enhancement and increment of needs in the life of a human, created social system. Societies were built, villages were established, cities were set. So, more requirement, more different phases came, and there was a need to establish a language. And that need gradually was felt by human beings, and this human being started creating different language. They started, creating different vocabularies, and these different vocabularies were for a specific purpose, for an objective, for different situations, right? Now, as you are engineering, if I straight away jump from that phase to the industrialization phase, where what happened in the 17th century, 1800th century, when for the first time industries were set in by the British, colonies. The model of the industry was simple. People started flocking in cities where industries were there, just because of means of survival was there. They used to get work, and that work used to pay them, and then the systems were not well structured, they were not scientific, they were not well organized, and just because of not being well organized, they were haphazard, there were lots of problems, and that is the reason why gradually language there even took place. Earlier the boilers were of different types, earlier the machines of the industries and companies were of different types, and you engineers, like when I say you, means you are the fraternity of engineering, your your super seniors who were there at that point of time as an engineer in 18th century, what they did, they started making machine more sophisticated, more need oriented, and those need oriented machines were created, and then they started giving names. Obviously, if we talk about video camera, 100 years back, this particular object never existed. As this object never existed, there was no word like video camera. So, what I mean to say is, language is in itself artificial. As per the requirement, people started giving names to different objects which were created or were already existing in nature, in environment. And then they decided to mutually agree upon that as a system, as a society, that yes, by now onwards, whosoever will be talking of or about these objects, then they have to refer that object with these names. As definitely you might have studied, in your grammar class, noun. What is a noun? Noun is a name of a person, place or thing. So, they started naming things just for their ease, right. Now, this was the developmental phase. Now, obviously, every technology we talk about, every machine you talk about, every circuit, they are so complexity, they are so different minute parts, and their names are given, and you never know what is going to come ahead. Maybe we are sitting here and we can straight away move down to some different planet. You engineers may be making this possible, right. So, there means lot of things, lots of opportunities and possibilities still there in the field of engineering. So, again language would be needed there. Can you talk to your friend? Can you talk to your family member? Can you talk to your faculty members without having the knowledge of language? Not possible, right? So, now we are going to approach language from the point of view of as a system, as a structure, right? Now, let us start. So, language, as we have already made it very clear in the last lecture, it is skill oriented. What we have to understand is we have to learn the skills, listening skills, speaking skills, writing skills, reading skills. And when it is skills, definitely any skill is not easy, right? It is a set of perfection that gradually, eventually you reach a situation or a position after repetitive practice. So, you have to understand the dynamics of these skills. Now, so every language basically is divided into two parts, that is lang and parole. What is this lang all about? No, lang means, as I have right now said, that as per the requirement and need, the different engineers, for it matters, let us now stick to just engineering field, because you all are engineering students. So, they gave different names to different objects, right? And they give different names to different object, processes, methods, and these all names and the words, vocabulary were recorded, right? So, the naturally dictionary meaning of the word which is already existing, as if you remember in the last lecture we were talking about denotative meaning, the dictionary meaning of a word, right? So, they started as establishing this, and those established language whole structure set of words are known as lang. But what is parole? You know, same teacher teaches the whole class of 60 students, but what happens while in the examination? Same set of questions, but the way, the pattern, the selection of words in answering those questions by different students are different, isn't it? Do you know why? Do you know why? It is all the inbuilt mechanism of human being of choosing and selecting a few words. No two people are identical, right? And if they are not identical, so obviously their selection process will be different, and that is the case while you appear for an examination. Same teacher taught you the different concepts to the 60 students, and all those 60 students are appearing for an examination, same set of questions, but they are answering them in different ways by selecting different words with a different pattern, right? So, that is parole. Parole is individual perception and uses along with the selection of different vocabulary by creating different sentences, that is known as parole. So, what we have studied right now, we have understood that language basically is divided into two parts, that is lang and parole. Lang is an already established structure system of any language, whereas what is parole? Parole is the perceived knowledge about language and how an individual starts selecting certain words for a particular narration, for a particular transmission of our idea, message, right. So, what we have discussed right now is the basically two parts here. We are approaching language as a scientific study, right, as I have already said, right. So, language is of two parts, it has two parts, that is lang and parole, right. Now, parole. Now, as parole is there, and this is the only problem, why generally people face problem, parole, due to parole, not due to lang, right, because the moment you talk about parole, then what happens? What happens? You have disseminated, you have associated different meaning to a particular word which may not have been perceived in the same way as you are perceiving the word. When you say anything like, say, suppose I associate use a word table. The moment I say table word, then how do you perceive? Obviously, you may be perceiving a study table, You may be perceiving a dining table, you may be perceiving a table to be a computer table, or just a table where certain decorative items are kept. So, once you limit the meaning of a word as per your own choice mechanism, then that is known as parole. So, parole means what? You have created a set of meaning for it, which may not be the case as far as the agreed social system structure, right. So, that is parts. Parts, now try to understand. This is the basic problem with the engineering students. They are not able to understand what is information. They are not able to understand what is idea. They are not able to understand what is thoughts. They are not able to understand what is opinion. They are not able to understand what is views. They are not able to understand what is facts. They are not able to understand what is data. Now, to maximum student in my teaching career, whenever I put a question, hey, do you know what is information? Can you just define what you get by information? They get perplexed. They are stunned, surprised. Sir, to us it seems same. No. Why are you required, why are you expected to know the differences between these words just because in the class, in the lecture, somebody, your faculty is using language. And if you are not able to understand how language is taking place, like maybe in the lecture, a faculty may be giving you certain information. When he gives an information is what? Information is rarely heard. Did you know, have you ever heard about Lang, Langue? Had you ever heard about parole? You might have gone through your intermediate classes, high school classes. You were taught about English, you were taught about grammar, you were taught about drama, you were taught about poems. But have you ever heard about Lang and parole? No. So, unheard, unknown, unaware, if any message reaches you, that is information. So, which part of language use the faculty is using where he is trying to give you information and unheard? While he lecture, when a faculty gives a lecture, he studied for 30, 40, 50 books on the same topic. And if he is studying 50 books, means hardly you can go through 1 or 2 or 3 books just because of the tight, hectic schedule. You have lots of syllabus, you have lots of subject to pursue in a particular semester. But he has gone through 40 to 50 books. And if he has gone to 40 to 50 books, he will definitely, for sure, will be sharing, disseminating certain information which you may not be able to perceive, you may not be able to aware, you may not be able to come across. So, always you should be alert. Listening skills, I am in a way talking about listening skills. You might be alert, you must be alert, you have to understand which sentence is an information. Now, what is an idea? When you talk about an idea, suppose if I say, I want to create an instrument where if I just think anything, the exact words, think not speak, think anything, the exact word in the sentence should get printed on computer desktop. Is there any machine by now? No. So, what is an idea? Idea is an outcome of experience. Idea is an outcome of experience. So, if an idea is an outcome of experience, so you should be able to differentiate between when the faculty, when the resource person, when the knowledgeable person is giving ideas, so it should be noted down in that way. When he is trying to give information, that should be noted down in that way. In the same way, thoughts. Thoughts are basically an amalgamation of information, ideas, opinions, views. Information is never the faculty's. He has somewhere gathered it, but ideas are of faculty. He is giving the idea Idea means it is an outcome of his own experience, but information is not the outcome of his experience. He has gathered, he has studied in some books, he has listened to certain scientists, or he has listened to certain professors,